so I have been watching a show on Acorn called The Other One. And it follows basically a group of people who are really trying to put their lives back together after the death of someone. And so it opens with Tess and Catherine. Tess is married to a man named Colin. And so Tess and Catherine, their daughter, is planning a surprise birthday party for him. So they've been at the house, getting all this together. Their friends, family, co-workers, all of that. They're all there waiting for him to come in. And it's getting late. And so, of course, they're trying to figure out what's taking him so long. Now, during this time, you see that there's an issue between Catherine and her fiancé, Marcus. Something has happened, and they are not on the best of terms.
To reiterate, absolutely nothing happened.
Not here.
Righto.
So, eventually Colin arrives home, and he's saying that, he stayed late to have drinks with one of his co-workers named Rupert, and you know how he gets when he gets some drinks in him. The problem is, Rupert has been at the house for hours, waiting for him to come home so that they can surprise him with this party. So at that point, the jig was up. Now it's an awkward situation. So he walks into the living room area, turn the lights on, and everybody gives kind of this half-hearted surprise because, of course, they realize, oh, okay, what's going on here?
Why are the lights off?
Surprise.
So, and then, of course, once Rupert steps out and says, basically, hey, what's up? He knew he was caught. Colin knew he was caught. And unfortunately, I guess you want to say that he had a massive heart attack at that time and he died right there on the spot. So we get to the funeral, and this is when we are introduced to a woman named Marilyn, who also has a daughter named Catherine. Okay, so we find out that Colin has been having an affair for the last 30 years with Marilyn, and he fathered a child with her, Catherine, who had the gall to show up to the funeral. Okay, we know how these things go. Family drama is messy. So they're there, of course. And of course, Tess had some words to say about the fact that he named Marilyn's daughter the same as their daughter.
I mean, I've heard of people buying their wife and their mistress the same perfume, but this is just so much worse.
And then, of course, she has this emotional outburst at Colin, basically saying that she's glad he's dead.
I'm glad you died. I am glad you died. And I hope you burn in hell, you absolute shit.
At the end, the officiant is asking, if Colin's daughter want to come up and say a few words. Now, of course, when she said that, she was referring to Tess's daughter, Catherine. But, of course, both Catherines got up to walk up to say a few words in honor of their father.
And now, Colin's daughter, Catherine, will say a few words.
Okay, so we get past that. A few weeks later, what we find out is that Marilyn and Catherine, for the purposes of reviews, Tessa's daughter is going to be Cathy, and Marilyn's daughter is going to be Kat. So Marilyn and Kat are what I guess Charlie Murphy would say habitual line steppers, right? So a few weeks later, Cathy shows up to their house to collect her father's ashes. So for some reason, they decided that it was appropriate for them to go and get these ashes. So now she's going to the house to get the ashes. And of course, they're making small talk. And she basically said, I just came to get the urn. So of course, they had no problem giving her the urn because they'd already poured his ashes into something what they believed to be more suitable, which was basically a lunchbox. So now they have to decide what they're going to do with these ashes. They feel like they have every right to, to have a say because he is her father too, and and her mother and her dad has had this love affair for the past 2-3 decades. So they want to be involved in the situation. So Cathy arrives home while her mother's throwing her father's stuff out, and of course, she's pissed.
I don't want to think or be reminded of anything to do with him.
And so at the end of that conversation, she basically said, I have a date, and so I need to go. And of course, Cathy's like, wait a minute, this is way too soon. So obviously, Tessa's not dealing with all the emotions she's dealing with, the anger, the grief, and all of that.
I've got a date. I'm meeting a man from the internet. Look, again, isn't this all a bit sudden?
And so, they eventually, so she's decided, Tess has decided she doesn't want anything to do with the ashes. They can do whatever they want. She don't want to be bothered. So, Cathy, I'm not sure how much time has elapsed. Cathy's gone back to their house. It's going to be in a couple of days, maybe a week or two. And so now they are looking for spots to dump Colin's ashes. And so the first spot they want was chosen by Kat, Marilyn's daughter. Basically, she wanted to dump it in like the sand pit in the park across the street because she has fond memories of the park. Like her mother can see the park, so she can look out the window and see the pit and think of him and the ashes in there. Obviously, this place where kids play. And Cathy is like, her fond memories that she lost her virginity in that park.
This is it. It's perfect. Mum can see the sandpit from my bathroom window. When I was 18, I lost my virginity on the sheep-shaped sound thing and the giant spring over there.
So, there's that. And then, Cathy was like, let's keep looking. And so Cathy takes her to like this clearing in the woods that had this old tree that she remembers playing in. It has this huge hole in it. And she was like, I remember, going into the tree and playing in this area. That's this place that their father used to take her. And basically, Kat says it looks like a butthole. And so that kind of just ruined that, childhood memory for her when she actually looked at it, because it did. I mean, in all fairness, in defense of Kat, it did.
Fit in the hole in the trunk? Thought it was a cave. Looks like a gaping arse.
And so they have now decided to find some place in between both their houses, right? So while this is going on, Tess is on yet another date. She's getting drunk. She's flirting with this man because she has convinced herself that if she's intimate with another man, because she's only ever been with Colin, that's going to somehow solve her some problem. So they leave the restaurant, and Tess is like, can you find? She wanted to find some place more secluded to park, so that they can, I guess, get down with the get down.
Is there anywhere we can park that's a bit more private?
So while that's going on, they done found Marilyn, Cathy, and Kat done find some highway, byway, sideway street where they're gonna dump Colin's ashes. And so Cathy's like, I'm not really sure how to, and before she can even get that out, Cathy just went on and opened the lunchbox and just went on to dump the ashes out.
I don't know how you're supposed to do this. I guess you just say a few words and then pour it.
So while they're standing there talking, they hear all this, the horn going off and all this going off. So of course they look over to the side, and who do they see? Cathy's mother and this man parked behind a dumpster, getting into it, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Oh, no.
But eventually, Tess realized that she couldn't do it, that with all her anger towards Colin, that she still loved him, and she just couldn't go through with it. Unfortunately, she also noticed that Cathy and Kat could see her in the car with this man. She saw them, so of course it was this whole awkward moment.
Oh, God!
So now they've decided that this is probably not the best spot to dump his ashes. So Kat decided she was going to scrape as much of his ashes as she could back into the lunchbox, and they'll find some other place to do it. So Cathy comes up with, they'll just put his ashes in a couple of flares, and they'll send them off that way.
3, 2, 1.
And a key point was made at the end of this episode, where Tess is basically saying that despite everything, that she did love him, and so she's not really mad that he had his fake golf games every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so of course Kat is like, well, we never saw him on Thursdays.
I genuinely thought he had golf practice every Tuesday and Thursday.
Never came to us on a Thursday.
So it's like, where was Colin on Thursday? So, to be continued.